The city of Ashland is known for its vibrant arts scene, small town charm, and beautiful setting, all nestled into the forest at the base of the Siskiyou Mountains. One of Ashland's greatest assets is the intact watershed that supplies nearly all the city's drinking water, as well as beautiful Ashland Creek running through the heart of town.
This is our watershed, 12,000 acres of mountain slopes that funnel snowmelt and rainfall into a beautiful hidden reservoir that's the source of Ashland's water.
The city of Ashland has a long history of interaction with this watershed. It goes back to 1892 when the city fathers petitioned the President of the United States to establish the Ashland Forest Reserve, essentially to protect the watershed that provided their abundant and clean source of water.
In addition to drinking water, the watershed provides outstanding recreational opportunities, the scenic backdrop to town, and exceptional wildlife habitat with amazing biodiversity. Ironically, the element responsible for shaping this natural wonder over many centuries also threatens its sustainability.
The Ashland watershed has this incredible forest. It is a forest that developed in a relationship with fire. It essentially was dependent on fire to maintain this kind of open condition.
Over the centuries, low-intensity fires had a thinning effect on the forest, especially on the drier slopes and elevations in the watershed where large, fire-resistant trees once dominated in open forests.
Wildfire is a natural disturbance agent and a natural visitor to these ecosystems. From lightning strikes in the summer, and indigenous people burned here for eons.
The fire scars that we can extract from these trees show that fire burned with a frequency of 7 to 14 years. What's happened in the last century, since we've begun to want to protect this precious resource, we've suppressed fire.
With fire suppression, it's been taken out of the ecosystem, and we're seeing the effects.
We have a real sense of urgency with the amount of fuel load that we have in this watershed and the risk that we have for fire. And your greatest risk is the protection of this municipal watershed.
The city of Ashland has proactively managed municipal forest lands in the lower part of the watershed since 1995. This model of active stewardship helped inspire a larger project on adjacent U.S. Forest Service land known as the Ashland Forest Resiliency Stewardship Project, or AFR, which was collaboratively developed among Ashland citizens, the city government, and the U.S. Forest Service beginning in 2004. The AFR project is designed to protect the city's water supply, sustain mature forest habitat, protect life and property, and promote long-term ecological restoration. The AFR project is managed under a stewardship agreement that allows the City of Ashland, the Lomacotsi Restoration Project, and the Nature Conservancy to work as partners with the Forest Service and bring additional funding from non-federal sources over the next 10 years. Each partner leads a component of the project, and the partners collaborate on project decisions and planning.
This project is cutting edge. It's an expression of a new paradigm in forest management, public forest management, that actually involves all of the key stakeholders, that involves the local community in helping to make decisions about how to implement this forest health, forest restoration project.
What was really important to this project was the American Recovery Reinvestment Act. Those funds allowed us to put $6.5 million to this project. The agency never would have been able to dedicate that amount of funding.
During the AFR project, work to accomplish the main goals will be carried out by thinning brush and trees and using controlled burns to restore more open forest conditions. Work will cover approximately half of the 15,000-acre watershed over 10 years. The current federal stimulus funding covers roughly 3,000 acres of the work through fall of 2014.
Our ultimate goal here is to get these forests in a place where we can return fire to this landscape.
The specific prescription or plan to reduce fire danger and increase forest health depends on ecological conditions, both on each acre and collectively across the landscape.
Of course, every unit is different, but generally speaking, our objective is to try to retain the larger trees like this, and ponderosa pine in particular. We tend to remove the smaller trees. They tend to be underneath the canopy of the older trees, and they generally are not in quite as good a health and vigor. So my job is to come into this forest, look at it, take inventory, measurements of trees, vegetation, soils, fuels, and try to determine really where we're at and what we might be able to do to benefit the situation here.
Overcrowded forest conditions often necessitate the removal of trees with commercial value to improve forest health and reduce fire danger. In order to preserve fragile soils, helicopters will be used to lift out trees that can be sold to local mills. In areas of gently sloping terrain, the project will make limited use of ground-based machinery.
The Forest Service and the community clearly agreed from the beginning that the work was designed to meet project goals and not for economic return. Any material that is excess to ecological needs can be removed as a byproduct. Any proceeds from this byproduct can be returned to the project to treat additional acres.
The thinning and the use of controlled burns to consume excess vegetation reduces the risk posed by summer wildfires to the water supply, to centuries-old trees, and to the adjacent community as well.
From a municipal fire department standpoint, one of the primary advantages is more predictable fire behavior and fire safety, especially for those homes that are in the interface. The area of mixing of developed homes that start to migrate into the watershed and the forest lands area.
In line with the principles of adaptive management, the Nature Conservancy leads an ongoing monitoring program to evaluate the project, with an eye to improvement along the way.
A key element is a science basis. And so we're working with the community and interested stakeholders and our partners to help bring out the best available science, and in some cases, develop the science to help support this project.
As important as the community's input was in creating the plan, it's just as vital now that the work has begun on the ground. Direct involvement and outreach helps local residents understand why they see smoke on the hill or a log truck on the road. A major goal of the partnership is to minimize any impacts associated with the project, but some are unavoidable. Smoke visible from town, trail closures, some noise, and increased traffic on roads in the watershed are the main interruptions to daily life that the community can expect from time to time in coming years.
The education part of the project is really important because there's a strong interest to the city of Ashland and the residents in what's happening in the forests, and it's a living laboratory up here that we can use, getting kids out of the classrooms, getting them up to see what's going on, getting citizens up here as volunteers on tours to see what exactly is happening and let them get to know their watershed and get to know the forest above them. Once people understand what's happening, then they really start to see why the management in the watershed, stewardship of this piece of ground is so important.
With federal stimulus funds supporting the first phase of the AFR project, there's a focus on creating jobs and an ecologically educated workforce.
When we draft and produce these prescriptions to treat these forests, we want to be able to take that information and transfer it from the people who design the projects to the people who put the projects on the ground, the ones whose hands touch the land, so they can comprehend the ecological objectives of what we're trying to achieve. We have an ecological workforce training program, so we've been able to employ and train about 100 folks on this project to date.
It takes a toll on your body. You gotta love it to like to be out here.
This project is, I believe, breaking new ground in trying to take all the concerns of erosion, water quality, smoke, animals, old growth, and a community living on the edge of it that doesn't fully understand it and needs to understand it more, and blend all those things into a really kind of groundbreaking project.
This is a really different era in ecosystem management. It's really the era of healing. The benefits are going to come over many generations.
Interested in learning more about your watershed? We welcome your involvement. Visit ashlandwatershed.org for more information and to see how you can get involved.